Love is gonna come my way, searching for clues that I hope to find. Want something that's gonna last. I wanna live and forget the past. I know this change is gonna do me good. I know this change is gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change will do me good. I'm wondering where the wind will blow. If you got a clue, then let me know. Don't hold back now. Give me a sign. Something really good. If you dream, you know you should. I know this change is gonna do me good. I know this change is gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change will do me good. Everything changes in its own way. I'm feeling better every day. And I'm gonna look back at all of this for me. And I'm even though it hurts me now, I know the things will feel me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change is doing me good.
Aloha. Good evening. This is Aloha live out of Flagstaff, Arizona with Spiritual Image Productions on Blog Talk Radio and freeconferencing.com, establishing and maintaining right relationships through human. Aloha, welcome to tonight's Aloha Live. And by the way, we're also on Ustream. For those of you that are interested, if you go to the spiritualimageproductions.com, spiritualimageproductions.com, on the front page, there's a video player. If you click on that video player, play, you should get us live there as well if you want. Anyhow, tonight we're doing Aloha Live. We're talking with Frank, Jacob, and Tonia Madenford in Packing for Mars, a documentary that they did not too long ago. And so right now, Aloha, Frank and Tonia, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Okay, both of you talk at the same time. Ready, go. Just kidding. So anyhow, hey, I want to thank you for being here. Now, everything seems to be going smooth, and I want to apologize because I don't know if Blog Talk Radio people are playing games with me or whatever's going on. But anyhow, I'm not able to get into the switcher into the back office. So if you guys want to ask questions, we're just going to have to postpone that for next time. Or you can email the questions and then we can just answer them privately if anything else and go from there. But in the meantime, just to let you know, Packing for Mars was premiered worldwide on November 2015. It's inspired by the 1970s cult science fiction novel entitled Alternative 3. One man armed with nothing but a camera and an open mind sets forth on a journey to reveal the truth behind what may well be one of the most startling mysteries. Is there a secret agenda involving a survival colony on Mars? Is there an elite cast who have inside information regarding ancient knowledge of man's true origin. Is Earth on the verge of a massive shift in consciousness? The truth is stranger than fiction, just as the journey that unfolds within this documentary. For more information, you can go to for more information on Passion for Mars, you can go www.passionformarsmovie.com. You can also go to www.bmovimeo.com/Frank Jacob for information on Frank Jacob, and then for more information on Tonia Madenford, you can go to www.screenaddiction.com. And we're going to talk with these guys here in a couple minutes and learn more about their documentary, what inspired them to put it together, and so forth. So I do want to give a big aloha to all of our underwriters, beginning with Mahadikini Lorraine at www.mahadikini.com. Mahadikini Lorraine's life has been a personal journey exploring sexuality and spirituality for over 20 years. She is a certified tantric counselor and tantric healer and a certified mind sound teacher. Mahadikini Lorraine is also a graduate of Margot Nan's year-long Sky Dances Tantra Facilitator Training Program, as well as a current member of the American Association of Sex Educators Club, Counselors and Therapists Club, as well as a charter member of the Association of Sexual Energy Professionals. She regularly attends trainings and conferences to keep current with the latest information and research on sexual education. And then we have the 90-Day Ascension Journey at www.90dayascensionjourney.com. When you sign up for the 90-Day Ascension Journey, you will be facilitated with defining and redefining your soul true life purpose. You will be assisted with finding out what Ascension means to you. On this journey, you will be provided with tools and techniques and assistance to empower you to connect and reconnect with yourself, your emotions and feelings, and your mind, body, and spirit. Through a universal soul-centered process, you will be going through a lifelong transformation that will allow you to move forward with your endeavors and never look back if you're there. And just to let you guys know, a few weeks ago, 2-3 months ago, I wrote the book for this journey, a supplement for this journey. And so if you want to go to that page, you can there's some more information you can grab from that for that as well. So yeah, we also have the MUFON Symposium 2016 at www.mufonsymposium.com. The 2016 MUFON Symposium, UFOs from Our Oceans to Outer Space, is the 47th Annual International UFO Symposium sponsored by MUFON. This year's event features outstanding UFO researchers and investigators from all over the world sharing their insights on UFOs from what they are and what this means for mankind. Join Andrew, myself, and I, and other scientifically minded people for a great event in Orlando, Florida, from the 25th to the 28th of this year. So in August, that is. So, yeah, again, I want to thank you, Frank and Tonia, for being here. I know you guys are busy. You guys got all kinds of stuff going on. So whoever wants to start first, if you can just kind of give us an overview of who Frank is, of who Tonia is first, and kind of bring us up to date about in terms of how you got to where you're at now, and then we'll go from there. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Go.
I guess I'll dive in, and then Tonia will assist or take over, if you will.
Okay.
The film started with well, I guess I should give you a little background on me. I mean, basically, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a musician, and a composer, and I've been looking to do a project which sort of embodies a lot of the different skill sets that I've been picking up over the years. And I had found out about a very interesting novel many years ago that an extremely intelligent person sort of shoved in my hand, insisting that although the cover said it was a science fiction novel, that it was not a science fiction novel. And many years went by, and at the time that I was then looking to create this project, I came across a live interview with the great-granddaughter of a famous U.S. president, and that's Laura Eisenhower, talking about the premise of which supported this novel. And the novel was called Alternative Street, and it's about a Mars colonization that had been taking place starting in the 70s by an ultra-secret breakaway faction within the scientific community to preserve the human species for what appeared to be something coming. And when I heard Laura talking about it, having been talked about being recruited, it really intrigued me. When you find out something's possibly true and something as far out as this, of course you still have to take notice. But for me, that was the intent, to say, okay, well, this is the project that I'd like to do. And that then led me, of course, on a journey which sooner rather than later connected me with Tonia Madenford of Green Addiction. At that point, the two of us connected through incredible serendipitous series of circumstances. And so I combined my skill set with her amazing skill set, having been somebody who worked in film. She was the perfect complement, so I'll let her take over at this point.
Hi.
Aloha.
On my background, I'm a producer, executive producer, and script supervisor in the film industry and work a lot in Hollywood. But I also have this passion for the alternate subjects and have done several films with Jose Escamilla, UFO Greater Story of Virgin Eye, Moon Rising, Celestial. He's a wonderful filmmaker. In fact, he's in Packing for Mars. I teamed up with Frank, as he had said, he embarked on this journey, and I literally connected with him just days after he'd flown to the States. And we teamed up and started on this incredible adventure, almost a little bit like a Mulder and Scully on the X-Files, going out, checking out time travel locations. We've actually done several films together since. Solar Revolution was one of them. We did Crossdonna Chronicles, which is on Adept Artifacts, with a wonderful researcher, ancient artifacts, who's based out of Vienna. And we did Stranger at Pentagon with Craig Campobasso, a wonderful story about Commander Valiant Thor during the Eisenhower and Nixon administration. So there's a lot of wonderful material out there, and of course, it's time to bring a lot of these truths forward. So it was really a wonderful opportunity to team up with Frank and be able to bring Packing for Mars out now.
Got it. And that's and again, I was telling you guys earlier, and just to let you guys know, weeks ago, before I actually talked to these guys, because I met them a few months ago in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, and anyhow, prior to that engagement, that meeting, I had already been telling people, and I don't remember which show I put it on, but I had already been telling people that, I already know that teleportation exists, and I don't know how we finally got it yet, but I know that it got it up and going, and it's just a matter of time before it becomes public. And then all of a sudden I ran into you guys. That was pretty interesting. So, and you guys did, just last year, in November, you guys did make this public, and so, it's very, again, synchronistic, like you say, how everything's just kind of working out. So now, and before we go there, I want to get a background about, Frank, where you were born at, or where you were raised at, and what was going on as you were growing up that led you to where you're at now.
Well, you want to go that far?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I mean, I started out, I guess, just as an inquisitive kid always, and I think one of the key events that I think triggered me on the path that I've ended up on is I read a book that I mail ordered away for when I was 11 about Hiroshima and the atomic attack on Japan, and at that point, being a young impressionable mind, I was just stunned by the graphic violence that was true, based on what humans had done to humans, and I had this sudden realization that I was on this planet of insane political leaders that would think nothing of dropping explosives on their fellow citizens on the planet and annihilating them. So it really made me become this skeptical, questioning person. And I suppose that's sort of always where I've been since then. of course, I tried a couple of, not finding really any uh, planet world. I ventured also more into the spiritual aspect of things. I was into the Castaneda books, and there was then I came across a lot of alternative history books, and I found that there was this whole world about the history behind the history. So there was this history that was being told to us by the mainstream, as we call it, whatever educational program or the news programs or whatever was out there. The media was coming at us with this sort of official version of history. But then I found out there's really actually the real story, and that was that history is made up of a series of real events that are happening sort of behind the scenes. And then we just hear, it's like when you're in a band and you do months of rehearsal in the back rooms, but people don't see that. They only see you up on the night when you're on the stage playing that concert. And so what we see in history a lot is we just see the concert, but we don't really see the behind the scenes. And in the concert, you of course only show the polished part of the version that you want people to see, and not all the other stuff that goes behind really what makes it up. So that led me, of course, to a point where I found out about when I got the book Alternative 3 from this person. I was open-minded to the concept that there could be, what the premise of this book talks about, sort of like there could be this elite group which was building kind of a survival colony off-world for something that they believe is coming. Now, of course, the three aspects that they were dealing with were like, weather modification, and they were, of course, concerned at the time in the 70s about global warming, which didn't really become a popular term until more recently. But it's interesting, it's uncanny how author Leslie Watkins has already tuned into these subject matters of climate change and carbon, emissions and things over 40 years ago, leading to a novel that was talking about a group that was deciding to do something about it. And one of the solutions, of course, of the alternatives that they picked was to go off-world. And I think I've always had kind of a fascination with space. And then that led me to, parallel to working on music and creative projects I was developing. Of course, I was always interested in the nuts and bolts behind production, which was the recording part and the part of putting it all together, seeing it happen. In the early days it was still on analog, then it became digital. I became more and more involved with using computers, using audio as my foundation. Later, when the technology for video came along digitally, it wasn't much of a change to go from watching a timeline pass by that was an audio soundbite timeline to one that was a video soundbite. And the fascination with combining audio with video soon kind of dominated my life, and I knew that I had to do something about all this inside of me that, about, hey, there's this perception of reality out there which is being staged for us, but I've also seen a lot of other stuff, and if I can do something about it using media, that was really what was my passion. I knew early on that I had to do something like this in my life. And, then when you go down a rabbit hole, you sort of come across a lot of really cool information that people have put out, and a lot of times you see the information and you go, I wish it was like, I just wish they had a little better quality, or a little higher production standard, because there's a subliminal message that when you see something, and now we have YouTube filled with stuff like this, that's not really like Hollywood quality or super quality. You think, okay, well, it can't be real because obviously nobody would support it. Nobody's putting money into it. It can't be taken seriously. Sort of like the underlying conception of a lot of stuff, even though it might be a total gem or nugget of truth. And I think one of the first pictures that I saw that really impressed me moving in that direction were the Jose Escamilla films that Tonia was mentioning, Moon Rising, and his stories about, and he was, totally in line with the idea that there's this fakery going on. There's this part of the official space program which is being denied, and there's always been that myth about Apollo and the fake Apollo missions and stuff like that. So it was just amazing then when, you know, you had no idea how surprised I was. And when really on, like, I think day 9 of filming, I was at a location, and then I was sitting across, and I ran into this person who, you know, was from Hollywood, and said that she was a film producer and such. And I asked, well, you know, who do you work for? And then she saw on my laptop screen, you know, as I was moving my daily rushes onto the computer, the little Moon Rising logo on my laptop. And then, you know, little did I know that here I was sitting beside the person who actually produced that stuff.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. So now,
I found out that Tonia had this, you know, this whole background too of production in this area.
got it. Well, let me ask you this, Frank. And when I do these shows, I mean, nothing surprises me, and I've talked to just about every type of person you can think about from every walk of life. So let me ask you this. When you were growing up, or at any given time, have you experienced seeing UFOs or UFO aliens or talking to them at all or anything like that?
You know, this didn't really happen until later in my life. Although I was a believer early on, and I think when I was 12, I somehow ran across the material coming out of Europe, out of Switzerland. There was this guy they called Billy Meyer, and there were these Palladian ships and some American crew. There was this book out about an American crew that had gone over to Switzerland and apparently had found samples. They were given to them, and they were able to analyze these samples. It was one of those first intriguing stories where you're like, and as a kid, you're like, yes, this is it. This is the proof, you know. And you saw the ships, they looked real. And I was a believer from that moment on. And I think, I mean, it was frustrating because I never had any, you know, ships appear in front of my house, or I wasn't out in some remote area, some being manifested and said, we've been watching you. We're guiding. You know, I've never had any of that. I've always had to rely on my own inner voice. And I believe that I've developed like maybe intuitive telepathic abilities over the years because I've had to have an inner dialogue, and I've had to reach. And I found out, you know, and I'm learning now that a lot of the voices or little impressions that I get are information snippets that are coming to my mind when I'm in a state of creativity. They may not be coming from me directly, but they might actually be something that I'm being given from an external source. And those might be, you know, it's my faith brothers and sisters, or whatever you want to call them. Maybe it's my higher self, I don't know, but for me, that's always been kind of the inspiration, that there's this inner side, there's this inner voice that needs to emerge.
No, I hear you. I mean, like years ago when I was studying at TCU in Fort Worth, I woke up one morning and I hear this loud thundering sound. Andrew, what do you want? You know, it was like that, and it like really woke me up. And I was like half asleep, half awake, you know, and so it was like that. But anyhow, and so I hear you saying that you have telepathic conversations with beings on the other side, possibly, or beings possibly in ships or from other worlds or something like that. Is that what I hear you saying?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I define it quite as concretely as that, but you know, I think that's a possibility. And if I've you know, I've kind of offered myself up in terms of like, I'll provide the skill set that I've developed for the channeling of information into the world that is maybe outside of the mainstream in an effort to quicken the awakening of consciousness. Then, and if those are the sources of information, I'm totally open to it. But I don't really define it. I don't really subscribe to any masters or leaders or shaman or anything like that. I take it all in. And
it's not, I'm not saying, well, yeah, you're a master, you're a saint, or whatever. I mean, I've talked to kids via telepathy. Literally, I was at a Kmart years ago, and I was sitting there waiting for my sister to come out, and this woman and her daughter, she was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, maybe even 3 years old. I don't know how old she was, but you know, they were walking by, and I've experienced this many times with kids. They're really open channels. So I just said something very simple like, hello, and she looked at me and she goes, hello, and then as they were walking by, she turned around and waved at me goodbye as well. And literally, there was not one word spoken verbally. So again, I'm asking you, Frank, are you saying that you were actually having conversations with other beings, and you don't know whether they're coming from or who they are, but you actually are having conversations with other beings? On the possibly on the other
I'd
side.
have to say yes.
Okay.
I'd have to say that would apply for sure. You know?
Okay.
I later when I was speaking of earlier we chatted about Sedona and things. I spent some time there, and it was actually in Sedona for the first time that I would see that I actually had the experience of seeing unexplained light phenomenon in the sky. So then I started having this physical. I mean, it wasn't like I started them regularly, but that was one of the first times where I saw something in the sky which I definitely could not explain, using conventional logic.
And what's your description of this thing that you've seen? Are you saying it was a ship or a being or something a formation in the clouds?
It was a ship. It was definitely whatever. It was a bright light that was pulsing just above the horizon, and it appeared from nowhere, hovered, blinked around and stuff, and then disappeared again, like in a blink of an eye, and then reappeared in an area near there, not exactly the same place. Continued its sort of maybe it looked like it was scanning or something. It was like a fading on and off light, and then it blinked out completely, and then it was gone. And it was in an area of the landscape or the surroundings that definitely was not populated. There were no major roads. It was low. It was too low to be an airplane or a satellite or something like that. So that was one of those experiences.
Okay.
Where I actually had physical evidence, but they've been very rare. It's still.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm still in a desert of experience where in terms of like no beings have appeared outside my window.
Exactly.
My inner voices, exactly. So I've had to still, all those inner voices that I hear and those messages I get, I'm still kind of relying, having to kind of, make my own conclusions from.
So now, with that in mind, Frank, did you have a conversation with any beings from that ship at all, or at that time?
No, I don't think I did at that time.
Okay. So, but you have in the past. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I think that I've been guided. Let's just call it that.
Okay.
And it could be these beings. So, I mean, it's uncanny that the material that I'm interested in always seems to end up in this, alternative reality stuff that is populated with extraterrestrial energies or intelligence, or perhaps maybe it's even future human interaction and time travel. Maybe there are people that are future humans back in our time here that are communicating with us now to give us a physical impetus or a mental impetus to move in a certain direction without a direct, actual interference and pushing us in a way. Maybe their way of being able to maintain the integrity of a timeline is to give us mental stimulation so that we have aha moments that lead us in a totally new direction and thereby steer reality more toward a positive or open consciousness kind of awakened state.
Got it. And that's exactly where we're leading into, Frank. And so hang on to that thought. Now, I want to go to Tonia here now. And again, Tonia, if you can just kind of start from the beginning, where you were born or raised or whatever, and how you took the steps to where you're at now.
I was a bit of a traveler from the start, so I moved around a lot. My father worked for the government, and we were constantly on the go. I was raised primarily in the Rocky Mountains, so I'm a bit of a mountain girl. I love nature. And ironically, I started out on camera. When I was very young, I started early. At 15, I was involved in some Warren Miller movies and extreme sports. And from there, transitioned over into music videos, and I got really interested in the music and the arts. I'm a musician as well. And started working for record companies and got involved as a recording engineer. Actually ended up getting a diploma as an engineer. I worked as a recording engineer and worked at a record label. And I love music and I love the arts. And it was wonderful, but it still wasn't the fullness of what media can be. And so from there, I got into film. I started actually making music videos, and from there transitioned into bigger films, and started then my own motion picture company, and this transitioned into larger films and working in Hollywood, and so the story went with the career component. I'm a lifetime experiencer, and during the course of, being in the arts and being involved in television and film, I kept that side of me very quiet. It was something that I wasn't really comfortable with sharing. I didn't really, it was sort of like I had this altered life, the spiritual life that I kept very quiet, and then I had my mainstream life and the films I was doing, the projects I was involved with, and was working on both sides of the world in terms of the States and in Europe, and did a lot of work. I've traveled and done expeditions as well, and so I was in different parts of the world, including Australia and South America. And an event happened in 2007 in the States where there was a very bright light in my room, and photographs were taken of this experience. It happened over the course of an hour, and at this point, I had shared some of the photographs with some people I had trusted, 3 or 4 researchers in the field, to get their impression of what they thought. I mean, it was really a fun experience. It lasted for about an hour, and I shared these photographs, and one thing led to another, and the next thing I knew it, I was being put on the front cover of Beautiful magazine. I was being asked to speak at the Orb Symposium, and all of this started unraveling, and it was a bit of a terrifying experience for me, because here I was, a woman in the film industry who had built this career in movies, on doing all these incredible projects, and all of a sudden, this whole other part of my life started cracking into the public. And looking forward now, or looking back now, it was really a wonderful thing, because it allowed me to come forward and start talking about the alternate subjects, as Frank had just said. And I started getting more and more involved in the field, in the public aspects of the field, and I started making films on the subject and started bringing forward some of the experiences I had had as a child. I shared a couple of these stories. One story was showcased in a book called Art of Close Encounters with Kim Carlsberg, who did an amazing layout of different experiences and contact experiences with people around the planet. This was then put on the cover of Neil Gold's book, Close Encounters of the ADHD Kind, out of Hong Kong. And the next thing I knew, I was sort of being drugged out of the closet, hangers and all, to really talk about this side of really disclosure, as having close contact experience, and being able to articulate this and share it and bring it out in the world. And this is now unfolded into many alternate films on the subject, and I'm able to sort of share time between mainstream and then the alternate reality, and meld them all together, because I think they go hand in hand, really, the whole science and the spirituality. And we can still have fun in mainstream and do the sci-fi shows, because I think every bit of Hollywood and every bit of the movies that are mainstream now have aspects of truth. And I think it's a great medium to reach out and tell stories and share. The storytelling platform. And whether that's mainstream film or whether that's television, they're different, but I think both mediums are so very important because so many people can stay connected this way. And look at all of the information that's been brought forward even in television series. There's been a lot of amazing series like X-Files and Fringe, Heroes, and just all the, even some of the shows that they come out, UFO Hunters, and with Bill Burns, and Ghost Hunters, where they get into other aspects of Long Island medium, where we're introducing psychic and telepathic and channeling abilities. So it's a wonderful medium. I definitely think now, looking back, it was all part of the process. It was part of the journey to be in the film industry and to be able to share the experiences and speak out about some of the more extraordinary, supernatural, and deep, even deep subjects like Frank had touched upon that we actually showcase in Packing for Mars.
And I guess maybe that's what I'm saying is that I think for you guys to have done this documentary, I think you had to have some experience, at least some experience with the paranormal, and there's no way that you could get around that because you wouldn't be able to do and know and work with and foresee some of the stuff that you put across. I thank you because you know, when I first talked to you and I set this interview up, you guys allowed me to watch your documentary, and I was pretty taken at some of the stuff that was in there, and I've run across just about everything you can think of, pretty much, and that's very. I think it's really hard to surprise me anymore because I just ran into so many stuff. So anyhow, so now, and before we take the next step, and I apologize because I can't get into the studio for BTR, but so we're just gonna just do the whole show as a talk show. But before we go on to the next step about your documentary, Packing for Mars, have you either you or both of you experienced ghosts or talking to angels or saints or fairies or gnomes or any of that sort of stuff as well down the road?
Well, the interesting thing, I guess, about us is that we, we're like this pair, whatever Mulder, Scully, modern people, and we each have qualities that complement the other. So my connection to those things is more of an internal one and more of a wanting to believe it or to believe it somehow intuitively. Maybe it's maybe it's something that I feel is connected to me on a soul level. And then we have Tonia, and Tonia is much more of the experiencer person. So and both of us have the advantage that we reach into media as our medium of expression. And so I think we can bring, and that's one thing Tonia really does well. When I've worked up a segment of a film that we're working on, I'll put together a lot of details into it, and then she'll come along and kind of and use her intuitive skills to polish it and fine tune it even further, so that we have this this masculine, feminine, positive, negative sort of expression.
So what I hear you saying, Frank, if I'm correct, is that you've experienced, you've sensed ghosts before. You never actually seen them, I'm assuming, or actually heard them in a sense of speaking. I don't know that they actually talk. I've just sensed them. I've never heard them or seen them. But I'm hearing you say that you've actually sensed ghosts before. You've sensed their presence. Is that what I hear you saying?
I've sensed them, and I have to admit, since I've known Tonia, I've actually now started to see some weird, unexplainable things, and she's like, seems to be a magnet, is all I can say for this kind of experience. And it's ironic because one of the films that we worked on together was called Solar Revolution, and we were talking with Michael Persinger. Dr. Michael Persinger is sort of an infamous neuro researcher, brain researcher in Canada, teaching interesting subjects, and he actually is the guy who invented the thing they call the God helmet, which I don't know if you've heard of it. You could probably do some research on Google. It's a device that he invented, which basically is like a helmet. You put it on, and it's got subtle electrical energy fields placed in specific locations around the brain of the person wearing the helmet, and through inducing very subtle energy fields into those regions, he's able to induce a state of higher consciousness, or almost like a spiritual experience in the people who are wearing the God helmet, who are sitting within a Faraday cage. Faraday cage is a totally shielded off environment that has no penetration from external magnetic or electric radiation. And when we were interviewing him, the subject of orbs came up, because we were in his study, and I looked over among the piles and piles of interesting books and papers, and there was one in particular that popped out at me, and it was a thesis, a master's thesis on orbs, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Here we were at a university, a conservative, actually educational facility, and there was this master's thesis about somebody who'd written on orbs, and I looked over at Dr. Persinger and said, "Hey, seriously, is this a master's thesis on orbs?" And he goes, "Oh, yes." I said, well, we're sitting right here beside the Queen of Orbs. She's sitting on the cover of UFO magazine. And he said, "What?" And he slipped out. So immediately he put her, he had to strap her in to the Faraday cage. And so while she was in there and they were doing interesting sort of, tests, he turns to me and he goes, "Have you heard of PSK?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Well, psychic phenomena and unexplainable events." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I've heard of that." And he goes, "Okay, well, you probably notice that a lot when you're around her, don't you?" And it was funny because really just, a short time earlier, I began experiencing seeing shadows move by unexplained, or my cat would suddenly, or the cat would suddenly look up and, like over my shoulder, and I'd feel kind of like an energy tingle, and that started happening to me, but I don't know if I'm the cause of it. I think actually it's all Tonia's fault.
Tonia, what the heck are you doing here? What's up with that program? Let me ask you real quick, Frank, before we go back to Tonia. This God helmet, does it induce virtual reality? Is it a form of virtual reality system?
No, it's not virtual reality at all, except it is a virtual reality that you projected, that isn't artificially projected by any other means.
Right. So, and Tonia, when you said you experienced that shining light for about an hour, where was that located at? Where were you at the time?
I was in Green Bay, Wisconsin at the time. What's interesting is the person who was there taking the photographs with me had not had a lot of experiences, and it lasted longer than an hour, but the photographs, we stopped taking photographs because I think after about the 30th photo, 35 photos, 37 photos, fear set in because things were being captured. And it's interesting that we're talking on the subject because the gentleman that actually took the photographs just passed away yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Really, really interesting that we're discussing this. But it was a very bright light, and you could liken it coming from a dark theater into the sunlight. It literally, your eyes would water and your nose would tingle. And it was a very playful experience. And like I said, photographs were taken, and this is sort of what brought everything out into the mainstream. even when I was involved in that experience with Frank, I must say, in Solar Revolution, we have a scene in the film where I do demonstrate telekinesis, and I do have PSK and telekinesis, but I keep that very quiet. It's something that's an aspect of me. I'm sure with these other realms, there's, I'm sure, a cooperation or a collaboration or an interaction that occurs, which is why other people experience things, perhaps in my presence. And it was a new experience with even what happened. I'd never been thrown in a Faraday cage before. This was really interesting to actually have somebody analyze from a scientific standpoint what that means. In Solar Revolution, we filmed it very close. I just demonstrated. We had some physicists and scientists talking about certain abilities, mediumship abilities, and we sort of demonstrated that in the film.
Got it. Wow.
And when First Singer had put me in the Faraday cage, this is the first time that, I've had a lifetime of experiences. I've seen all kinds of things in these unseen realms. And it was the first time that I had an unbiased, basically, piece of equipment or machine registering readings. I was put in there, they put an EEG, they put all these diodes on my head and my hands and my chest, and had me in there for quite some time, had lights flashing, had me in the dark, asked me all these questions, and I actually thought maybe it wasn't working. I didn't know what to expect. I had no expectations. We went there to film Her Singer, so this really wasn't about me at all.
It was kind of like she was in a recording booth in a recording studio, and the singer's inside this little cabin. He's got headphones on, and you're like, okay, go back, let's take it from the top of the chorus. And the singer has no idea whether the recording just sounded great or horrible. They just had, they felt it from their own perspective, but they didn't really know, what the bigger picture sounded like. And I was on the outside at the mixing desk, so to speak, experiencing all that, while she was on the inside. It was hilarious.
Got it.
They would keep asking me to repeat things over and over and over again. And then one time halfway through this session, they come running in, retesting to see if the things were connected correctly, because I thought, okay, it's really not working, and I don't know what they want to find. But
they thought it was hooked up incorrectly, because the results were so bizarre.
Or maybe they were playing the wrong music. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
It was interesting to see the results, though. They were able to validate the results over and over and over again with the repetitive pattern signature. And it's difficult to look at this. For 2 to 3 weeks, I had nothing but processing, trying to cope with the outcome of that single session. Because you've got a machine that's completely unbiased, like registering seismic waves for an earthquake, if you will. And
are you saying that this machine was registering your psychic ability, your paranormal ability? Is that what I hear you saying?
In a sense, yes, it can pick up on what your brain waves are doing and what parts of the brain are firing when you're doing certain things. And apparently, in the experiments they were running, the brain would completely change hemispheres and fire synapses in a certain way. And this machine, much like a machine that would record, I'm not a scientist, but it records the graph of these brain waves, will then print that out on paper, similar to like what a seismic machine would print out for like earth tremors or earthquakes. And they can actually register these brainwaves and see the actual phenomena occur on paper. And the machine's doing nothing but feeding these signals. And so it was interesting for me because I couldn't rationalize my way out of things anymore, So I always would have these experiences and just not talk about them and not think about them too much and still go on with life. And now you've got this unbiased machine that's recording all of this, and it's a little bit more difficult to rationalize your way out of a box.
So are you saying that this new machine was confirming that you have a psychic ability beyond normal? Is that what I hear you saying?
Correct. It registers the brainwave firing in different ways that maybe others don't have certain active parts of these hemispheres.
Because in my opinion, everybody is psychic, or in my perception, everybody is psychic. Just people, certain people used to choose it, or work with it, or train with it, and other people just choose to let it lie dormant, and that's it. So I mean, but that's fun. But go ahead.
Not everybody has abilities. It's just about how we fire our synapses and how we're wired and how we think and how our minds are trained, I guess.
So so we got about 40 minutes left, and usually I play music at this point, and then we go on. But what I want to do instead, since I can't play any music right now, I want to, well, I can, but anyhow, we're just going to go on. What I want to do is I want to start at the get-go of this packing for Mars. I want you guys can start how you even got inspired to even or even think about doing anything like this, and then the process you went through to document this, and then from there. And by the way, congratulations again. You guys got the People's Choice Award. At what film festival was that? You got the People's Choice Award?
The International UFO Congress has a film festival called the EDE Film Festival that has, in the meantime, over the last 25 years, gained in significance and attracted a lot more better and better films. And that was where we've gotten the People's Choice Award.
Got it. And where was that at? In Florida or somewhere else?
That was in Arizona, in Fort McDowell is where I think they had this year's.
Oh, really? Oh, got it. You're talking about the UFO Congress gathered conference they had over there.
So, exactly. I think it's like the world's largest collection of researchers in specifically this field of paranormal, and it doesn't just take in films about UFOs. We found, since obviously we'd entered Solar Revolution a couple of years earlier and actually won the best feature for that, even though it had nothing to do with UFOs. So the cool thing about that film festival is one of the very few film festivals that's open to films that go down, pathways and avenues that aren't really accepted by other mainstream-oriented film festivals.
Got it. And again, congratulations to that. So whoever wants to start in terms of how this thing got started to begin with, and then what the process of getting to the end result, and then go from there. But go ahead.
I guess also, since it sort of started with me, like I was saying earlier, I'd heard this interview on YouTube on a recruitment program for Mars with this, daughter of the great granddaughter of a famous U.S. president. And, with his book having sort of been in the back of my mind, Alternative 3 basically revolves around, the idea that we have limited resources on this planet, and that there's these, elite groups that are sort of in charge of saving the genome, and, that they're trying to, they're expecting kind of a collapse of society somewhere in the not too distant future. So in order to do something about it, they get together, this team of scientists get together, and they meet regularly deep under the ice sheets of the North Pole in submarines, so nobody can pick up the information. And they actually begin this colonization program, which leads them to setting up bases on the moon, and from the moon, then they go further onto Mars. And they started, setting up this colony. And there was also a film that was done, or like a show that the book is based on, which it came out a year earlier. And it was a mockumentary that the the creators of the film kind of put together to mock people who believe what they see on television as being truthful. So it's really ironic because when Leslie Watkins then took over from the show and actually was asked to publish or to write an expanded version of the TV show, the material he began to research was done so well that he apparently, without even knowing it, had stumbled upon really what was going on. And so much so that he had been approached by British politicians, by researchers in the United States, one of them being Mae Russell, who, if anybody knows anything about sort of alternative research, Mae Russell is one of the icons of that form of investigative research, which emerged in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s. And she, was saying that it was the most dangerous book in your collection, that it would explain a lot of what she's seeing, all the dots that would connect a lot of the dots that she's been kind of out there researching. So this novel has a very, very powerful and kind of earth-shattering, place in history that started 40 years ago, came up a little bit, and then sort of vanished. And one of the themes that I think is prevalent in society is, which has begun to emerge more and more, is that the powers that be, or they, whatever you want to call them, the people that are pulling the strings of this play that we see unfolding in the mainstream, which is distracting us from reality, they basically have had to deal with the fact that the normal everyday man is now getting access to tools and technology to share information quickly. And if we can start to share notes, we can pretty quickly get onto the heels of what is true and what isn't true. So one of the techniques that they've done to hide truthful events is hiding them directly in the open. So that means, the CIA, when UFOs began to be cited and recorded and shared among people via the internet and stuff, the CIA, for example, began to publish their own UFO magazines that were just filled with crazy stories, even far crazier than the real stories, right?
Interesting. I didn't realize that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can look that up. It's amazing if you study sort of the history of how the population of the media flow of this information just expanded and exploded, and what those sources are. So there's a lot of fakery going on. And so for me, the alternative street storyline is exactly a perfect example of how that is used. Like, I didn't know Leslie Watkins at the time that I started the film. And it wouldn't be until we actually completed the film, and we'll get into that later, that we connected. But I always thought of, and people thought of Leslie Watkins as kind of like this agent that had been placed there by those forces to be a soft leaker, a disclosure, like a spy placed there to put the information into the mainstream, so that it was and it was written as science fiction, so that everyone could then say once and for all, well, yeah, I mean, it's a nice idea that we have colonies on Mars, but come on, it's obviously science fiction. There's science fiction novels about it, and they seem like they're even really true or could be real, but obviously the book says it's fiction, so it is. And so, for me, I wanted to find out for myself. When I heard Laura Eisenhower talking about having been recruited, I was like, come on, it's real? I've got to know this now. So it was like, okay, if I get in touch, the message is, for me, again, relying on these inner voices, I'm going to put out the message that if I'm supposed to work on this story and gather this information, I think it's important for everyone in the world to know this is real. I'm going to send out the signals, and if I hear back from some of the key players in the field and they want to work with me, I'm going to get my backpack and my camera, and I'm going to hit the road, and I'm just going to get to the story, hear it from the horse's mouth. And that's kind of how it all started. And that was back in 2010. This is before, the Corey Goods, all the new researchers and the whistleblowers that were coming out. There was a few whistleblowers, but it was still kind of a barren field in terms of the Mars material. And it's so cool that the week that we released Packing for Mars, was the same week that The Martian was released. So there's this.
Oh, the movie! Oh, no kidding! The movie! Wow.
Yeah, no, totally. So
that was a good movie too.
Yeah, it's a great movie, so there's the mainstream, and it's great because it represents that mainstream look, like that's what we had going on and then there's ours, which is we also have this really crazy, esoteric, wild part of reality going on at the same time, which they don't show you. And someone's got to, so that's our job. Anyway, so then I hit the road and I started to do the interviews, and it was just like I was saying earlier. It was amazing that amongst the researchers and the source material that I've been tapping, that inspired me to go out and make a film was Jose's material, Jose Escamilla's material, and lo and behold, very short into the journey, I run into Tonia, and I basically said, "Look, I'm making this film," and I didn't know much about her background. A little bit I know, and a lot of it was filled in much later. So I asked her, I said, "Well, she was somebody that obviously was interested in the field. She was in production, and I was a solo filmmaker out there with my own camera. And when you're on the road and you're trying to do this as a one-man band, it's a pretty intricate thing. I mean, you've got to think about this. You're setting up a camera, you're setting up audio, you're framing the picture, you're asking the interviews, and you're being the director, the DP, and the audio guy all in one. So you can use any bit of help you can find along the way." So I thought, how amazing it is that I've actually met a person who's a filmmaker. And so I was like, I've got to convince this person to go on this journey.
Now, where did you meet her at, and how did you meet her?
Well, I was in the middle of recording in Washington, Vancouver, Washington, with one of the whistleblowers in the film, and we were trying to find locations to do the interview. And I wanted to spend as much time as I could with each of these people, because part of what I felt was if you get close to them, you'll have this inner radar which will tell you if what they're telling you is true, because a lot of whistleblowers escape their programs with very little but the clothing on their back. They don't exactly have manuals and briefcases full of documents being ripped off and put there and spread out into the open, right? So I felt the best way to accomplish that was to spend as much time as I could with these people, get very, very close to them, which I also executed, physically. We did that with the use of very close camera angles. And then while I was in Washington, Vancouver, I was looking for a place to stay overnight, and the person who allowed us to graciously use their home for the setting of the interview suggested that I sort of, even though they had company coming to stay with them, and they actually didn't really have a space for me, they suggested I come quietly knock on the door, and they could probably slide me into a corner of their house somewhere, and I could sleep on the mattress somewhere, So I did that, and little did I know was that person that was planned to stay over that night was Ms. Madenford. And then from that point forward, I did convince her. We teamed up, and then we started to go out, and we had some amazing parts of the trip where we just really did follow the storyline of what we were told in the film by some of the whistleblowers, and go to actual physical locations, because part of when you're making a film like this, if you don't have a lot of evidence, the best it's important to sometimes go to these places, because so often we hear things that are told to us by people, and we just take them because we want to believe them, but we don't often actually go and verify locations or things of what happened. So this is what Tonia and I started doing. So at that point, moving forward, she and I would essentially team up and make connections, discuss strategies, find people that we want to interview for the film, and Tonia was, it was great because her background in film really helped me to bring in some really cool elements of the film, like, which I'm now finding people really connecting with, like the polka dot shirt and things like that, and for continuity and aspects of filmmaking, which brought it up to a very high level. So, we started to meticulously, whenever we could, break away from our lives in our day jobs. In her case, she was working on films in Hollywood for the most part, when she was working on private endeavors. and I worked for a network in Austria. But of my day job, my car can't existence as a mild-mannered video editor. So, this is sort of how the process unfolded, and it took us really, I think, the whole 5 years to put it together because you begin to see information emerging freshly that you hadn't thought about earlier, or we would break away. We were asked to work on solar revolutions for German biophysicist Peter Burr, and this, of course, was a major, fork in the road that left Packing for Mars lying on the wayside for at least a year before I could actually get back and open the file and we could look at it again and say, okay, well, what's missing, or how does the timeline that was brought together up to that point still hold up? And yeah, it was just an amazing process to watch it unfold over all those years.
So you're saying that you started the Packing for Mars before you even met Tonia, and then
Exactly.
you were at the beginning stages. I'm assuming. I hear you saying, and then
right. Well,
right.
Yes, there's this way there's this scene in the film where we come together, and I guess I won't spoil it, but I'll just say when people watch the film, they'll see Tonia appearing because she actually is in the film, and both of us are in the film.
Yeah, no, I recognize that.
Exactly, and it was just an elegant way to actually tell that story because that's literally how it did happen.
Now, and you said it took 5 years for you to produce the whole thing.
Yes.
From beginning to end. So, and so I guess the question is, if you can give us a synopsis about what Packing for Mars is all about, and what your most important find was from that documentary.
I think the most important aspect of the film is, well, there's two things which I think stand out as being kind of the main theme. On the one hand, it's the idea that for this to be true, there has to be some faction of society which is aware of information or technology which the majority of the rest of us aren't. And this is what, in the film, Richard Dolan, we have in the film talking about a breakaway civilization. It's the term that describes really a part of civilization that has access to technology from, let's say, crashed extraterrestrial technology, or wherever it comes from, and it's reverse engineered this technology to such a degree that it is no longer in the public sector, but to move into the private sector. And this fraction of people have access to, far more financial resources than the rest of us ever could. And so they have developed this technology to such an extreme level that starting at least back as far back as the Roswell crash, began dabbling with this technology, and it's brought us to the point where what we think, we have as high-level technology, our iPhones and iPads and computers and whatnot, is actually a throw-off technology that has been used and discarded by this society many, many years ago, and that the actual materials and technology that they are working with is so far in advance of what we think that we still would actually believe it's magic, just like the way, if we went back to 100 years and visited somebody in New York City with their iPhone and showed them that, they think that we were magicians and extraterrestrials as well. So there's that fraction of society which is broken away, and if you knew that possibly something was heading to Earth, some disaster or some event or some cataclysm or some planet or whatever it might be, and you could do something about it quietly, you obviously wouldn't tell everybody about it because you couldn't save everybody, but you would do something about it because I think it's logical that anybody would do something about it, try and save the human genome. Now, whether it's an altruistic mission and they really do feel they're really doing something for the greater good, or whether it's a evil conspiracy of dark people that are just, sociopaths and out to destroy the rest of us. I don't really want to go down that road, and we don't go down that road really in the film. We just show you those things. And so the thing is, we looked for evidence that might support the theory of a breakaway civilization in the film. And the other important theme in the film is the idea of what we call cognitive dissonance. And that's the idea that people that have been raised in society and trained under the education system and universities and media and have been hit by a picture of reality that is limited, they, when confronted with information that shows them that actually this is only a very, very small part of the truth, and they see the big picture and the real truth, they experience this thing called cognitive dissonance, and that is such a contradiction of their belief system that they, regardless of whether it's true, they prefer still not to believe it and to go back to sticking their heads in the sand like an ostrich and pretend that it's really not there. Right. And I think that's what a lot of people in society are doing, that are refusing to wake up or to awaken with consciousness, like the few that are actually waking. And so there's a bunch of people out there that are trying to wake up consciousness, who feel it's their duty to spread awareness and raise consciousness, and they're moving against the inertia of cognitive dissonance of society, which is saying, no, it's not true, and they've got all the right, four-letter or three-letter organizations out there telling them, no, this is actually where we're at, we'll be hoping, we're hoping to land someone on Mars in the next 40 years, or right now we've got some rovers rolling around, and all those pictures that look like there's actual structures up there and things like that. No, that's just talk. And everybody that's telling you that they've been there or that there's actually villages on the backside of the engagements on the backside of the moon, they're all hallucinating. So go back to sleep and go on with the program. Everything's fine. So those are kind of like the two main themes that are in our film. Do you want to say anything else about it, Frank?
Yeah, well, hang on a second, Frank. A couple of things first before I go on to Tonia, real quick. First of all, now in the documentary, you're saying you're investigating, I'm assuming, a teleportation device. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a teleportation device that's discussed in the film, absolutely, and a whole program behind the teleportation device.
And so, and also, and I remember one key thing that was in there that I thought just blew me away, and I didn't realize we were that close with the teleportation device. In one scene, there's a guy. It's a public scene. I don't know where this location's at, but some guy comes on and says he can go to Mars, eat at lunch, and then come back in the same day. Is that true? Is that correct?
That's right. This is exactly it. Right.
Okay. And so with that in mind, is there potentially something that's gonna a meteorite or something that's gonna affect the Earth anytime soon, or within the next several years, or 50 years, or whatever?
Well, we wanted to know ourselves, because that would be one of those events that are kind of the basis of the novel Alternative 3, that there's something coming which is going to affect all of humanity, and something had to be done about it. And so we ended up talking with Lucas Gantamburlo, who's an investigative researcher based in Italy, because he's been approached by a whistleblower from the Vatican who have telescopes in various polar regions of the planet, which are looking completely in other directions, and have apparently been studying and analyzing approaching bodies that account for anomalous movements of satellites and other bodies in space that indicate that there's actually another planet which has such a large orbit that we don't really register it, but nonetheless it appears apparently historically to recur every so often, and when it comes through, it's perihelion. It's so close. Perihelion is that part of the movement that brings it within our solar system, that it actually affects, just like the moon affects the tides on Earth, this massive body coming through affect, pole shifts and planet atmospheres. So yes, I mean, there's strong evidence, and very, very well hidden and quietly kept evidence about such a body approaching the planet, which we talk about in the film. Based on the testimony of a Vatican whistleblower.
So no, okay, so what I hear you saying is either we're talking about Planet X or we're talking about another planet that's on the outskirts of our solar system that can't be seen except by highly powered telescopes, or both. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes.
Got it. And so, and Tonia, now what's your take on all this? What's your perceptions of everything of all this going on?
Well, as Frank said, the film really covers so much ground. Some of my favorite subjects of the film was teleportation and time travel. We even tapped into some technology. I mean, we were learning along the way as well. I mean, Lucas Gantaburlo came in at the very end. So this whole idea of it's all the 1920 missions and the information we were receiving, even with regards to this planetary object entering our solar system, was all developing as we were on this journey. We became aware of, and we had to do the research anyway, but we had the privilege of being able to interview Ernst Jankowski before he passed, which was a German physicist here, and we learned about these devices such as the chronovisor or even the time warp generator from David Anderson. This is really interesting stuff. I mean, to talk to Ernst Jankowski about the chronovisor and realize that they had technology where they were peering into timelines and not just looking forwards and backwards in time. They were actually able to record the echo or the imprint of these certain times, actually film them. And I guess, the footage would come back as a black and white image, but it was like they were able to record an echo in the acacia, if you will. And so we were really fortunate to stumble into some interesting technology, come in contact with some interesting individuals and researchers that were bringing forward, and within in Luca's case, bringing forth information he had never come out to the public with before. We were given images and footage and research that he had not ever disclosed. In fact, when we met Luca, Luca wouldn't even tell us where he was based. We had to take coordinates and make a time and a date. And we met him at this location. And then he entrusted us with this interview and the information because he was even guarding his location. And even JJ Hurtak's work coming forward with astroarchaeology and the information that he brought forward. Of course, archaeology, I'm fascinated by this, and the fact that there are structures on the moon and Mars and mirroring images here that align with star constellations. And with Klaus's work, I think this all goes hand in hand, and we were fortunate to even bring the indigenous aspect in. Credo Mutwal was a part that we brought in with her tax piece, but also Bitbai, who was Dogon Nishit, coming forward talking about that whole component from a spiritual standpoint and indigenous standpoint. The Dogon was very tied into star constellations, star alignment, and ancient knowledge. So I think these, for me, are interesting topics as well. Not only the elite and what they've planned and advanced space mission, secret space mission work, also this teleportation and time travel and the time warp generator. Alan Steinfeld did an interview with David Anderson talking about the time warp generator. I wasn't familiar at the time with this technology. Apparently, they've actually done experiments with this time warp generator where they literally in real time could see blooming flower or seeds move forwards and backwards. Like they could take a bloom rose and see it in real time in this time warp generator go back into a rosebud. Wow. This for me is fascinating. This is like real time visual evidential proof in a sense that there's something more. And Ernst Zinkowski here in Germany has since passed. He was such a great supporter during the time we were filming. And I must say, if Frank didn't mention it, even while we were filming this journey, which took us 5 years in the making, we didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell friends. We didn't tell family. We didn't tell even the fellow researchers of our intentions while we were filming this, just because the projections or what could be in the ether, and all we wanted to let this unnaturally unfold and be able to release this film in a very neutral way. I think we all have pieces of the puzzle. No one has any one answer, but for us it was about asking the questions and bringing forth the information and letting the audience come to a conclusion of what they thought the reality would be. And that goes with everything in terms of, even the coming of what would be deemed as Nibiru or Planet X. I think it's just putting all this information out there, touching upon these different parts, stringing it all together, making a big picture, and letting the viewers look at this and maybe even ask more questions and come to their own conclusions about the world that we live in and the information that is now coming forward, and a lot of information that's not been disclosed.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, I don't know if you want to do a series and do, I don't know if you want to call it Packing for Mars 2 or whatever, but I think that you guys are onto something, and you're getting into doors that most people can never get into, and you're asking questions that they've never been asked before of people that never been answered such questions before. So I think you still got a lot of work to do. I hate to tell you that, but that's example. So,
thanks a lot for that.
Exactly right. So now, go ahead.
That's what we wanted to hear.
I think you guys still got lots to go over there now. No, well, for example, have you ever heard of Christopher Moon? I believe his name is. Have you ever heard of him?
I haven't.
Tonia?
Christopher Moon?
Yes.
No.
He's got a device where he can talk to literally ghosts on the other side, and you can.
I've heard of these. Is this a spirit box? Are you talking about is Christopher Moon part of the UFO, the Ghost Hunters?
I don't know, but I think Ghost Hunters, their producers have actually investigated some of my shows before, but I've interviewed him a number of times. I believe he's still in Colorado. He comes out to Phoenix regularly. I don't know how often, but at least 2 or 3 or 4 times a month or a year. And again, the spirit box, I've checked it out, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I've seen it in action, and it seems interesting. I know years ago there was a prediction that was made that they were going to come out with a device that would allow people to talk to people, ghosts or spirits on the other side, and then this came along, I don't know, a few years ago. And I can't remember who it was that invented it, but somehow Christopher came across him, and they talked, and he started putting it out there, and in fact the guy that created it just died a year ago. I can't remember, but within the last year or so is my guess.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the spirit box. I've done a lot of research on the spirit box. There are different technologies and devices based on the spirit box components, and I think there's even different models you can access that have different frequency ranges. It's interesting because I was investigating and had intentions to purchase one, and there was a high-end model that had been back ordered, and it had been on back order for a year. So it's interesting that this comes up. Ernst Zinkowski, that talked to us about the chronovisor that was impacting from Mars, he was like the grandfather of transcommunication. This is sort of where it's all
about transcommunication. Yeah, that's the whole thing where there's a veil that is being penetrated from both sides to make communication with each other, and the device you're talking about And I guess it's true, you know, what we cover in the film really only touches on, it's a starting point for a lot of really powerful subjects which you could go into. We could have made a film that's 12 hours long, and still, you know,
never finish up, absolutely.
One thing you do notice is that the subject of time travel and parallel timelines and dimensions always seems to come back into this more sort of psychic realm, and it seems like it's, you know, I mean, as we're learning more, as quantum physics is emerging more into the popular, you know, knowledge base, we're starting to realize that we only really perceive, you know, 1 to 5%, maybe maximum of the known universe, and that most of the action that's going on around us is happening in the invisible realm, and we're only really starting to develop the instruments to pick up these other aspects of reality. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff that is being used technologically is just tapping into this area, and it's just only, we're very much at the start of all this.
And what's funny is that there's so much out there, but it's actually kind of the opposite in a way. It's the beginning of a whole new world, a whole new way of life for people here on Earth, of stuff that we haven't even thought about yet. So I think it's literally the sky's the limit, and there's still a whole lot of stuff we're getting ready to tap into that's going to be pretty out of this world. Absolutely. So, we got about 4 minutes left. Is there anything you guys want to put out there that we want to talk about? That you want, you know, just put it out there. You guys got any film festivals coming up? Any events coming up? You know, where can people watch this movie at? You know, and so forth.
You want to cover this, Tonia?
One of our next events, we're going to be in Australia, which will be quite exciting, at the Nexus Conference from June 18th to the 20th. We were at Nexus with Solar Revolution, and now we have the opportunity to bring Packing for Mars out there. So this will be exciting to do a premiere in Australia. Packing for Mars, you can always go onto the website at packingformarsmovie.com. We have streaming. You can do 48-hour streaming on Real House from there. We do have DVDs now available, which has just come hot off the press for the International Congress. So those are now available. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be screening sometime soon near you. It seems as though we are going to head down the road of other languages now. We did a Lebenskraft interview here in Germany, and now they want to do a premiere in Bavaria. We have got subtitles being translated right now, possible French version as well, which we did do a French and German version of Solar. And so we're going to be heading into the other language markets with Packing for Mars as well. So I know we're going to be doing a screening with C5 in July. So lots of exciting upcoming events.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you're listening and it's something and you've seen the film and it inspires you, you know, do get in touch with us, because, you know, we really do want
90 seconds.
We really do want the world to start to look at these aspects of reality which are being kept from us. Because I think right now we're at a time when people need to know. There's a need to know this information. People are waking up, and it's spreading exponentially. And now if it's relative to something that's coming toward us or not, maybe that's just a symbol of that's in our sort of mythology. But we are waking
60
up.
seconds.
Paradigm shifts are taking place, and I think we're standing at the junction of another great leap in the human experience.
Very short.
And we just hope the film is, you know, one little piece that's our contribution towards this process of waking people up.
Got it. So I want to thank you both for taking your time, your valuable time, to share it with us, and put yourself out there, and good luck with and blessings to you on your journey and all these the events that you're participating in and so forth. So, and I want to thank all of you, everyone else here. I don't know. Again, I apologize. We couldn't get on. I couldn't get into the studio, but yeah, everyone else here in the short in the phone lines audience and everyone else, thank you for being here. All of you have a God Goddess week. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Aloha.